여러분 반갑습니다. I'm Kwon-sewa and this is K-Culture Dive. Join us in taking a deep dive into the heart of Korean culture, from K-entertainment to AI news and a look at K-cinema in our K-Culture issue segment today. Let's dive in. And joining me on today's show is my co-host Bella Kim. Bella, happy Friday.
Happy Friday, Soa. And happy Friday to everyone joining us today on K-Culture Dive. I'm your co-host Bella Kim, here to fill you all in with some exciting K-entertainment news.
And we're going to hear from you in just a bit. But first, our headline story of the day. The Korea International Broadcasting Foundation, or Arirang TV, the channel you're currently watching, is celebrating its 30th anniversary this year, marking 3 decades of delivering Korea-related stories to a global audience. A special ceremony took place at the broadcaster's headquarters in Seoul on Thursday, highlighting the network's past achievements and future vision, with global K-pop sensation BTS among those to be honored. Our Jung Hye-rim reports.
Arirang TV marks a major milestone in 2026, celebrating its 30th anniversary. The foundation held a commemorative ceremony on Thursday in Seoul to celebrate. The event was attended by company staff and officials, including the second Vice Minister of Culture, Sports and Tourism, Kim Dae-hyun, and the Secretary to the President for Foreign Press Affairs. A highlight of the ceremony was a congratulatory message from President Lee Jae-myung, emphasizing Arirang's role as a public diplomacy platform.
In an era of global cultural competition, K-content is expanding Korea's cultural reach worldwide. At the heart of this lies Arirang TV. Programs like last year's K-pop Demon Hunters special are proof of how the network captures the hearts of people worldwide.
Arirang's leadership also laid out a roadmap for the next 30 years, focusing on digital transformation and AI technology.
Arirang will continue to grow as a global media platform, building the future together with viewers around the world. Through digital transformation and AI technology, we will expand our connection with audiences and evolve into an innovative platform.
The anniversary celebration also offered a sneak peek into Arirang's future content. A mini talk show unveiled the new beauty program Beauty On and Off, hosted by Ishan and Wyatt of the boy group On and Off, as well as the new faces of Arirang's flagship music show Simply K-pop. Wonjin and Alan from Gravity joined the stage as the newly appointed MCs alongside TV personality Peter Bint.
I grew up with Arirang Simply K-pop in America, dreaming of becoming a K-pop idol one day. To return now as an MC is a dream come true.
While filming Beauty On and Off and doing interviews, I learned a lot about K-beauty tips and its significance. I realized how popular it is, especially to foreigners.
The ceremony also honored those who elevated Korea's global standing, including K-pop sensation BTS, who received a special merit award. From its humble beginnings to reaching 140 countries today, Arirang TV has spent 3 decades as the world's window into Korea. The network is ready to embark on a new journey. Jung Hye-rim, Arirang News.
And now time to report on K-Enter News with Bella Kim. So Bella, let's start with NCT WISH because you have an update on their upcoming performance.
That's correct. So NCT WISH's first solo concert tour finale will be broadcast live across 67 cities worldwide. The NCT WISH first concert tour Into the Wish, Our Wish Encore in Seoul will take place from April 17th to 19th at K-Expo Dome in Seoul. And as the grand finale of their first headline tour, all seats have been sold out. And for fans who can't attend in person, don't be too sad. The final show on April 19th will be broadcast live in movie theaters in 67 regions across the globe, including Korea, Japan, Indonesia, Thailand, Hong Kong, Vietnam, and the UAE. In Korea, the live viewing will be available exclusive at Lotte Cinema in 27 theaters across the country. The concerts on April 18th and 19th will also be streamed online through Beyond Live and Weverse, allowing global fans to join in real time. Meanwhile, NCT WISH will release their first full-length album, Ode to Love, on April 20th, and the album will feature 10 tracks including the title song of the same name, showcasing their expanded musical spectrum.
Great news for NCT WISH fans. And Bella, we're going to stay on the subject of boy groups. So who are we going to talk about next?
We're going to talk about Cortez now. They are set to make their official comeback on May 4th with their second mini album, Green Green. But even before its release, the group is already drawing major attention by surpassing 1.2 million pre-orders. And this milestone was achieved just 1 week after pre-sales began, highlighting the group's explosive growth. With about a month remaining until the official release, the final pre-order number is expected to rise even further. Previously, Cortez surpassed 2 million cumulative sales with their debut album, Color Outside the Lines.
So tell us more about this highly anticipated album.
Green Green carries a message about a group's identity and boundaries, featuring a total of 6 tracks. And ahead of the official release, Cortez will pre-release the lead track Red Red on April 20th and kick off a variety of promotional activities as well. The group is also set to perform at Lollapalooza Chicago this August.
All right, can't wait to hear this album very soon.
Yes.
But Bella, let's end off with a Korean Netflix series.
We're talking about Bloodhounds is back with season 2 and has started strong on the global top 10 in the non-English TV category. This definitely shows a high level of interest from viewers around the world. International media outlets have also responded positively, praising this series as a showcase of stylish action and noting its fast-paced storytelling and also impactful fight sequences. In particular, the strong action elements have received favorable reviews as well. Bloodhounds 2 is an action drama starring Woo Do-hwan and Lee Sang-hee. Its gripping narrative and the cast's immersive performance are impressing audiences already.
All right, thank you very much, Bella, for those updates.
Yes, I'll stick around.
And now it's time to go over to our AI anchor Arirang for more on the culture front. Arirang.
Thanks, Sua. Here's your AI guide to the latest cultural headlines from Korea. Let's begin with our top story. King Danjong and Queen Jongsun, both remembered for their tragic lives, will be symbolically reunited through flowers more than 500 years later. The Korea Heritage Service plans to transplant wildflowers from Saring in Namyangju, where the Queen is buried, to Jangning in Yeongwol, the King's tomb, this weekend. The event comes amid renewed public interest in the royal couple following the box office success of The King's Warden, which drew more than 16 million viewers. It will begin with a traditional memorial rite on Saturday at Saring, followed by remarks from Korea Heritage Service Administrator Hamin, before moving to Jangning to plant the flowers. The Korea Creative Content Agency has partnered with Seoul National University, KAIST, and the Korea National University of Arts to nurture talent in AI-driven content. The initiative aims to cultivate convergent professionals who combine AI technology with the content industry. They signed an agreement under which more than 100 of so-called AI content orchestrators will be trained in partnership with the 3 institutions. These specialists will be equipped to oversee the full content production process by integrating and managing multiple AI tools and systems, while also analyzing industry structure and business strategy. Korea's southern port city of Busan, which welcomed 3 million foreign tourists last year, has seen a sharp surge in visitors since the start of this year. According to the city government, cumulative foreign arrivals through February reach around 556,180, up 40% from the same period last year. Chinese tourists led the increase, recording over 75,900 arrivals in February alone, overtaking Taiwan as the top source country. The number of visitors arriving via the port rose by about 10,000 compared with January, suggesting a growth in cruise tourism. That's all from me. Turning now to a quick look at more K-culture stories making headlines today.
Korea's box office seems to be picking up again. The blockbuster success of The King's Warden, which has recently surpassed 16 million viewers, has sparked renewed momentum in theaters. The question now is whether that energy will carry over into this April's lineup of new releases. Let's take a closer look at the latest Korean films with Jae Soh, filmmaker and professor from the Seoul Institute of the Arts. Welcome back, Professor Soh.
Nice to be back.
Professor.
All right, so The King's Warden has been a massive hit. Now, honestly, did you expect this level of success will continue for this long?
Honestly, no. You know, when I first heard of the movie and I saw the initial numbers, I don't think there was anybody expecting it to do this well. But, you know, when I finally saw the movie, I realized the reason why it's doing well is because I think, number one, it's a really good story. You know, I was really surprised by the fact that the audiences really took to the, historical story of King Danjong, who, as you know, it's tragically his uncle sort of, usurped this power, basically chased him out, and then eventually has a very sad ending. But I think the injustices that the people felt against this king, a child king, was the central part of the story. And then you also have the great acting of Yoo Hae-jin and also Park Jun. And I think Yoo Hae-jin is not the best-looking actor, but he's got basically the face of humanity, I think. It really sort of, his emotions are something that I think really central to the movie. And then Park Jun as the King Danjong, as somebody who's suffering. And in his previous work, he was in a show on television called The Weak Hero, where he played sort of a bullied against high schooler. And so it just all came together. And then the magic formula is also the director of the film, which is Chang Han-jun, who basically hasn't had a hit in a very long time. But he just brought just the right kind of, we call it shimpa, sympathetic melodrama into the story. And I think, now it's become a cultural event. I think people are going to see it multiple times. And also, like, fans of Park Jun, the idol star, are going in mass as well. So I'm really happy that it's doing really well. Yeah.
Right, and because there are so many fans of this movie, I guess that's why they are also having these stage events. The actors come up to the stage before the movie. They do that repetitively because the fans keep on coming. And now, Professor, so following this momentum, now we have new movies released across various genres, be it crime, drama, or horror. So, is there a particular film that we should that you are currently putting some attention on?
Yeah, I've watched two films basically in the last few days. One of them I want to introduce is The Ultimate Duo. And this is a sort of a throwback to classic analog detective work. And so it's sort of like I guess the movie I was thinking was Doorway to Hide, which is about two partner cops. So it's gone back to the two cops kind of situation, but it's a kind of a serious story about like a serial killer, somebody that's basically incarcerated wrongly, but he's also kind of bad. So the central character of the detective, who's been sort of ousted to sort of the outskirts of Seoul, is now on a hunt to get the serial killer. So that's a really good movie. And there's another horror movie called 살목지, Whispering Water. And in this movie, it's basically using modern technology with the classic sort of, I guess, urban myth, So on this one character's navigation footage, something is seen on there. And so there's a team, there's a kind of a film team that wants to investigate this, goes over there. And basically, it's the classic thing with found footage, harking back to Blair Witch Project. There's a lot of stuff happening in the water. I don't want to give any spoilers, but the whole time I felt wet and scared in the movie theater. So those are the two movies I want to sort of like, introduce today.
Let's go into more detail then.
Yes, we're going to first talk about The Ultimate Duo, or 끝장수사 in Korean. So this is more of a classic hands-on detective work. So I'm curious, did the audiences kind of miss this and wanted to see kind of these classic hands-on detective films?
Well, I hope so. Basically, you follow like four characters in the story. Basically, it's Bae Sung-woo, who plays the main cop, and then there's another younger cop who's sort of an influencer cop. This is the comic part of the story. He's always taking selfies, and putting it on Instagram, things like that. So basically, it's Bae Sung-woo, Jung Ga-ram, Lee Som, and Yoon Kyung-ho, who's also now like he's a comic actor, but in this one he plays I don't want to give it away, but a killer. And so it's harking back to, they have dialogue like, you have to use your body, your physicality to go after the bad guys, things like that. So it harkens back to that. I found it kind of interesting that it had that kind of dichotomy between the old sort of, buddy movie where you have two cops kind of having crises with each other, but it's a very serious topic about investigating who the serial killer is. So those two things kind of like tonally was different, but I think that's also what made the movie sort of interesting. So I'm hoping a lot of people go see this movie. Yeah.
It already sounds very amusing. Now, Professor Soo, let's go to the horror movie that you mentioned before, 살목지, and the English title, as you said, is 살목지 Whispering Water.
Yeah.
And it deals with a kind of familiar fear for some, maybe, because there's a mysterious figure that's captured on a road view image. I don't know if many people do have that kind of familiar fear, but it's already generating a lot of buzz. So what is your take on this one?
Well, it's basically, traditional Korean horror films have to do with the supernatural. So you have something like Exuma, where you have basically spirits. This one has ghosts too, but it's more urban myth. So like you said, things that we kind of like circulate in the internet or what people talk about, scary things like, I see something at the corner of my eye type of thing. Yeah, maybe right behind you.
Oh, Professor, they're right.
But, using technology. So basically, there are characters in this movie where, you have people sort of with almost like a Ghostbuster type of technology. So you're in the dark and you see sort of, it's a movement detector. So you have a lot of tech. And so that's one aspect that I think kind of brings it in. And then there's the aspect of, it's about a water, and it's about like this stone tower that has this kind of curse in it. And what I found really interesting was the movie has this kind of like visual feel that's made for a modern audience. So there's a lot of stuff that's on a GoPro type of thing where it looks handheld. So it looks like somebody's shooting it on a phone or something like that. But they also have high-tech imagery, so you're seeing things that you can't really see in the dark. So they kind of combine technology with that. And also the movie itself, I saw it in, ScreenX 4DX, which, as you know, your seats move, there's things being thrown at you in the face. Also the screen is very large. So visually it was kind of interesting. And so I felt like I was in the theater, sort of in the dark with the characters. And that was kind of what the interesting thing about this movie was. But I also saw it with the audience that was also scared. There were these two ladies sitting in front of me that were constantly kind of moving, and so they scared me, before I saw what was scaring in the movie. Yeah.
Wow. I see why you mentioned Blair Witch Project before, because the handheld camera feel that you have there, I think that really gives you the scare in those kind of movies.
Definitely.
So in a way, it's like basically less supernatural, it's more reality-based kind of horror. So I found that to be more interesting. Yeah.
We were just going to talk about that. Recently, horror movies, they seem to kind of shift from ghost-related to more of a reality-based urban legends as well, like the film that you just mentioned, 살목지. So do you think these approaches kind of enhance the audience kind of immersion of the film?
I think the shift right now is the urban legends is something that I think more people think about. And I think people are a little bit tired of sort of the supernatural sort of ghost stories that are happening. There are ghosts in this movie, don't get me wrong. So, there are water ghosts and things like that. But what I found interesting about it was that kind of dichotomy. But at the same time, like all horror films, you're asking yourself sometimes, why is this character going towards the danger? There's always that. So it's that classic sort of, especially the female character, sort of, they see something scary. And in most, instances, I think Bella or so, you guys would run the opposite direction. But in this movie, they run towards the danger, which I found to be, a little, questionable in that way. So the tonal part of that was a little bit, to me, not really settled. The director is a first-time director, Lee Sang-min, who basically made a short horror film, and then he made this like large film. So I think in a way, like I feel like if he had just kind of worked more on the story a little bit, more than sort of the visual aspects, which are terrific in the movie, it would have been much more, I think, interesting for the audience members. But I was seeing it sort of like early afternoon. And it was packed. So hopefully, horror is a genre that I think always does well. And right now we have, King's Warden, which is about, going to cry and be sympathetic. And this is like, the weather's getting a little warmer, so it's time for a lot of horror movies to start hitting the theaters.
I think I know why people watched that horror movie in the afternoon. Because if you watch it at night, I think it's
scary.
Yeah, it's going to be maybe too scary, I don't know. But let's move on to a film that blends Korean history and a personal narrative, My Name. And this one has already been resonating with audiences overseas. It's been invited to international film festivals. So why do you think this is being perceived so well overseas already?
Well, the two festivals it's the Berlin Festival, it's the Berlin Forum. And then the Udine Festival in Italy, and that's an Asian festival that basically it's really big. It features all of Asian cinema, especially Korean cinema or Chinese cinema, Southeast Asian cinema. So the director is Chung Ji-young, who basically we know from movies like Broken Arrow to Black Money. He's a classic he's an older generation filmmaker, but I think what's interesting about this movie, it happens in Jeju Island, and basically there was an uprising in, basically April 3rd. It's a very famous event where, upwards of 30,000 Jeju Koreans were killed because of the sort of ideological differences between North and South. And that's sort of the background, and the story is about this mother who basically she has sort of like memory loss, and she has a son who she named him after somebody very important to the story, and he doesn't really like his name because it's very old-fashioned. So what I liked about the movie was that it's about our past again, military, sort of like war, things like that. It seems very apt right now with what's happening in Iran and also Ukraine. So this movie is hitting sort of like an interest in a lot of festivals outside. Also, director Chung Ji-young, he wrote the script. It was a competition for a Jeju-themed story, so it was picked as the best screenplay for that. He also basically had a lot of crowdfunding. So there are a lot of people that really wanted this movie to be made, and the main actress is just a terrific actor in the movie. So to me, I'm thinking, it might not be a big hit, but I'm hoping that it hits the theaters and people find an audience for that for sure. Yeah.
Definitely. And so we are talking about these new releases. And when audiences actually go to the theater, do you think they rely or look at more of the stories rather than the theater experiences as well? What do you think?
Well, that's the big homework that we have right now. The theaters are not doing that well, but I think, especially with the success of King's Warden, I think people are starting to really be much more selective. So I think, when you watch a movie on, say, like an OTT platform, it's very different from an experience of watching it in the cinema. And with King's Warden, I think there was like this sense that people wanted to see it sort of with other people. So. And when you go to the theater, you do have different experiences, like the way I watched with ScreenX and 4DX. You can't really do that at home.
Right.
Also, I also find, as in Korean apartments, you can't really blast the sound per se. So, in a theater, you're watching it with really good sound that's just coming out in the speakers in all directions. Also, you feel like you're with other people, that you're kind of enjoying the time together, enjoying this one moment. King's Warden is something, it's become a cultural phenomenon where audiences actually want to go see it together. It's not a movie that you go, I might go see it by myself, but you're going with your friends or people you've recommended the movie to be. I've always, had people around me at film school and things like that going like, I still haven't seen it, I want to go see it, but I don't know who to see it with. So this is like the beauty of cinema, is that you are able to kind of share the experience. After the movie, you can talk about it, go out for coffee or drinks or whatever. Yeah.
And Professor So, do you think that we might have another surprise hit among the April's releases? Not as much as The King's Warden maybe, but still.
Well, I'll be hopeful, but at the same time, lightning doesn't strike twice, is like sort of the saying goes. So I think more than try to figure out if a movie's going to be another, 16 million audience member, big hit, I think better than that is we've gotten people back into the cinemas. So I think it's time for them to watch something where the story's really interesting. The two movies that I mentioned are pretty good. And I also have other movies that I, like you said, My Name is another one that I think it's not going to be a huge hit, but it's about our past, so it connects with King's Warden, more of a recent past, but it also has traumatic experiences that I think the audience will really sort of grapple towards. So hopefully that's going to happen. But in April we have other movies as well.
Would you like to
Yes,
recommend some
I'd
others?
love to.
Sure, yeah.
So basically there's a movie called Nuruk, which is a directing debut of actor Jang Dong-yoon. So he's in it too. And basically it's, I'm thinking it's kind of a comedy that's coming out. And then there's a movie basically coming out. It's a sequel, a long-time sequel in the making, 17 years. There's a movie called Wish with Jung-woo. And that was kind of, in Korean, it's called Param. And it was like a huge movie for him. And finally, this movie is coming out. It's called Jang-gu. And he's, again, reprising the same character. And this time, he's directing the movie. The main actor, is actually the co-director of the movie. So that's coming out. And then there's a movie called Mismatch with Oh Dae-hwan and Oh Yoon-ah. And one film that I kind of want to recommend is this kind of like funny comedy starring Chae Won-bin and Han Sun-ah, and it's called Girl Referee. So this one is a story about basically somebody that's sports, kind of like the judges. We always have this kind of like, the judge did it wrong, this should be, seen on a replay. So it's taking sports to kind of like a comedy level. So I'm really looking forward to that movie. And I think this variety from everything from historical to comedy to drama is going to be sort of, I would say, the April surprise after King's Warden.
Okay, wow. Well, we've got a variety of things to watch. And thank you very much, Professor Su, for your insights, and have a great weekend.
Thank you, Professor.
Nice to be here.
And thank you, Bella, as always. We're going to have you back here soon.
Yes, I'll see you back very soon.
Thanks for watching and for your interest in everything K-culture. We also want to take this opportunity to extend a heartfelt thanks to all our loyal Arirang TV viewers as we celebrate the station's 30th anniversary. K-Culture Dive will be back on Monday, 2 p.m. Korea time. Have a culture-filled weekend and keep diving.